All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to episode 34 of the On-Air Advocate, where at the On-Air Advocate, we look to provide education, support, and empowerment for all of those with different abilities, mental and medical illnesses, and their caregivers. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Tammy Flynn, and I am the host and producer of the On-Air Advocate, and I am super excited that you are here with us this morning, or you are catching it on the replay. Now, as most of you know, we are focusing this next couple of weeks on our series on chronic pain and pain management. So with that being said, I am super excited for our guest that we have here with us this morning, Dr. Zarinah. She is a speaker, a best-selling author, the founder and CEO of Rebound Sports and Rehab. And she has a passion for providing opiate-free pain solutions for her clients. And so excited to have you here and to gather all this knowledge for our audience.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. I'm looking forward to the conversation. Hello, everyone, MVPs out there who are watching. I hope this can be very, very helpful to you or someone.
Yes, and we did not coordinate that we were going to wear the same color this morning. So even though she's in Georgia and I'm in Wisconsin, we're on the same page. So that's wonderful.
Exactly.
So can you kind of take us through the journey of what led you into this pain freedom MVP of your own personal health and wellness, journey as a doctor?
Yes, so a little backdrop. Like you said, I'm Dr. Zarinah. I come from, actually I was born in Detroit, Michigan. Hey,
okay.
I made my way to Georgia at a very young age. In a general sense, I was raised with actually 4 other siblings. So it's always been a kind of like education. But in terms of the pain freedom aspect of it, and honestly, even though I was very much so scholastically driven, if you will, did very well throughout my entire matriculation through my education path. Med school, did all those things, pursued, actually sports medicine. Always kind of was inundated in that kind of life because as I was a collegiate athlete as well, basketball player. And so I was really just engrossed in that world. And so really interested in functional medicine, how the body functions. Not so much about, just like sports itself, but I was really, really interested in how the body optimizes function. And so at a very young age, so I pursued that. I did pursue that, went to medical school at Ohio University. And then I said, okay, let me continue to pursue this past that. And I kind of really got engrossed in sports medicine. But then that aspect of it, of course, with injuries, right? I was being exposed to a lot of people, not just athletes, even the wannabe athletes or the weekend warriors or those workers who were on repetitive type of in repetitive fields where they have repetitive use kind of motions and injuries and things like that, which of course engrossed me then into a lot of people who came with pain. And sometimes the injuries that just weren't getting better, be it with what is considered traditional. Okay, take your Tylenol, take your Motrin, ice and compression, maybe surgery, serial sessions of steroid injections. And then they kind of always felt like they were just in this hamster wheel of trying to treat their pain, kind of functioning, kind of not, but definitely not optimal. And that bothered me. So I kind of was like, there has to be more. I can't have just 3 tools in my toolbox. It definitely has to be more to this picture. What are we missing? And I think it's spotty, but different regions or institutions and things like that do a pretty good job at understanding that pain is beyond the physical. It's spotty though. It's not ubiquitous enough. It's not like widespread enough yet. And that is one of my passions, to kind of try to make that a lot more widespread, that we do have to address pain from a whole person perspective. And pain freedom, when people hear it, they think, oh, pain free, physical pain free, right? But for me, that's actually not really all it encompasses. Pain freedom is pain freedom, like physical, mental, your well-being. And when we don't address the mental aspect of our being free, right, that freedom, and we don't address our emotionality or that compass of us, that part, I can do everything I can try to do, throw everything to sink at you. They say throw the kitchen sink at you physically, and you won't have long-term pain freedom. You will not. you will not. You'll always still kind of be in that hamster. You'll get some better, but not optimally. So that's really what drove me down that path of exploring what other things are out there. Hence, I got fellowship trained in sports and integrative medicine, and with the angle at integrative pain management in particular. And then here I am, of course, some years later, continuing that, but trying to expand it even more, coming outside the exam room, for instance, platforms just like this, because I feel like I'm still limited, and even my colleagues actually are not always well versed in what other things are out there. So I'm educating not just the lay person, right? I'm actually educating in a lot of ways my colleagues as well, so that we can really make a difference for long term and actually get people to long-term pain freedom.
And what modalities outside of the medical realm and prescription realm do you feel are very advantageous for people? I mean, obviously this whole entire couple of weeks, we've talked a lot about, you have to try different things. You have to try different tools in your toolbox. There is no perfect fit for any one, any one person. And I think when we had discussed on the phone, we talked a little bit about looking at the whole, looking at the whole person, looking at the whole entire picture. But is there, when you're working with your patients, is there kind of a process that you go through to get to those answers, whether, whether medication versus doing those outside modalities of care?
Sure. Yeah, there is a process. I'm very comprehensive in my approach, which I also find a little different than most people are used to. Let me not get it. I'm a consultant for like another setting as well, in that very traditional setting where people are used to that 15, 20 minute, maybe 20-minute, right, visit, and they're kind of in and out. And that's the kind of issue where I kind of kept falling into play, where I felt like, well, 15 minutes is not enough time for anybody to really feel like they have a handle on how to have pain freedom. So in my practice, my medical practice, and also in other platforms that I'm privy to, I try to be very comprehensive. So my assessment involves head to toe. You may come in with a shoulder pain, but I'm actually going to look above and below that area. I'm actually even going to address if there is something what we call visceral somatic, meaning sometimes it's something from the inside out that's manifesting itself on the outside, that we have to address that, as well as referred pain. Sometimes where you're having the pain is not the root cause of the pain. So we have to address all of those things. I think that's actually pretty customary, I hope, at least with most offices, where they are thinking about those things. But my examination becomes very extensive. But beyond that examination, I also generally put people through kind of a more like a functional movement screen almost, that is kind of pick up nuances that is not necessarily part of a typical examination. And then also very much involved in looking at any previous radiology reviews or, imaging of any kind, nerve conduction studies, and so on and so forth. So I want to see the whole picture. And what I find, people will tell me like, oh, Dr. Z, I had that done already. The report said it was normal, or it's just a little arthritis or something to that effect. And I tell them, okay, bring me the CD. I always tell people to bring me the CD, because it's not that the radiologist was wrong. Absolutely not. Usually that's not the case, right? It's not that they were wrong about anything, but that's not necessarily what they're looking for. So they may not even mention or comment on something that was considered a nuance or not part of the big picture, where I'm looking at the details. And so I also, for instance, have an ultrasound machine in my office where I can put that probe on, there's no radiation involved in that, and be able to then take that assessment again to a next level, where under dynamic studies, so in the X-ray and MRI, for example, as you asked me about the fuller assessment, right? On the ultrasound, I actually may want you to move in the exam room while I'm actually while you're under the probe. In the X-ray and MRI, they want you to be still. And sometimes that's the reason why we miss things, because it's not until the person says, well, I only have pain when I go through this action. While under the ultrasound, I can put that there and say, okay, do that action. And what I'll find sometimes that an MRI obviously couldn't pick up on, because you're not supposed to move, what I'll pick up on is maybe there's a subluxation that's occurring in that motion. Maybe there's, the flipping of a piece of cartilage in that motion. I just try to be very specific and get very, very detailed and comprehensive, very broad and detailed in my assessment when you come to the door. Because a lot of patients By the time they see me, unfortunately, and I'm trying to change that as well, but by the time they see me, they've seen the primary care, they've went to an orthopedic surgeon, they may even seen a neurologist, and they're at their wits' end because it was kind of like they're still in the same pain. And then they'll come through my office, and I have all that information, so that's kind of a good thing, that they've gone through all these different tests. So sometimes I don't have to repeat them, right? But being able to use all that information to really, really get down to the root cause and get them to their next level where they're really trying to be long term.
Okay. And once you go through all of that, are there other standard recommendations that you would have? I know I saw you have a book out like on meals, right? So, I mean, is there some standard recommendations that kind of across the board, even though you do kind of customize and you go through the whole body assessment, that you would say standardly, these are good practices for anybody? Obviously, movement, exercise, things like that. But I know there's a lot to be said and a lot of research on diet, that has been found. And so what is inside of your book? Does that kind of tackle that in the book that you just wrote?
It does. And that book is Everybody Has 15 Minutes, which is actually a series. So the series is Everybody Has 15 Minutes. That first installment is 15-minute meals to your pain freedom. And the reason I started with that is because it's something I feel like people can easily digest, literally and figuratively. But essentially the idea that there is a general rule I absolutely kind of prescribe to, is that if you inundate your body and you consume your body with anti-inflammatory foods and properties that are high in minerals, high in vitamins, very alkaline, right? Because our bodies can be very acidic through the environment and the conditions that we eat, as well as the environment that we're in. So the foods that are in my book actually are addressing and giving you what I call in the book, which is also kind of makes it easy and fun to go by, the MVP star ingredients. So every meal has and shows you, okay, what are the MVP star ingredients of this meal, and makes it very simple so that you can understand, and also tells you why it's the MVP star ingredient of that particular meal. That way you start to get familiar with these foods that really should be staples in your home. And when they are, and you're doing this over, it's about the small steps, the small consistent steps that lead to the bigger transformation. And when we can engross our bodies, if you will, with foods that are like this as a lifestyle, then we're going to definitely get closer and closer in a faster manner, quite frankly, actually, to our pain freedom goals. So yes, it's really flooded with a lot of anti-inflammatory recipes, of course, but the actual ingredients themselves. And then what I do is I break down those ingredients in the chapters and tell you what is so special about this ingredient. And that way, when you start to look at your plate and your food, I always tell people, you hear it probably all the time, like, make sure your plate is rainbow, looks like a rainbow and colorful. And when you look down, I tell people, look down at your plate, and eventually when you see colors, my goal and wish is that when you look at a plate and you see something red, a red vegetable, red fruit, you start to know exactly what that's providing you, almost subconsciously. So you see red, you see green, you see purple, and you know exactly what you're giving your body. And if you don't have it on your plate, then you also started subconscious to know that what you're lacking. So when you start to have little ailments, maybe you have some neuropathic pain, well, maybe you're really low in your vitamin B, B levels. So there's a lot of vegetables and MVP star ingredients, again, even in the recipe book, that will show you, okay, this is a star ingredient, this is packed with, B vitamins. And so if you're having kind of some neuropathy or things like that or whatnot, it kind of gives you an idea, let me boost up on these things to help my body heal itself. So that's really the idea behind the book. And in 15 minutes, of course, because we're all busy, I wear a lot of hats like you, moms, doctors, CEO, right? The list goes on. We don't really have a lot of time to be 45 minutes on the stove on a Wednesday night. But you don't want to feel guilty about what you're doing. You don't want to sabotage your MVP goals either. So the 15-minute idea is that, we need something that we can do in an efficient way, have no guilt about it. It still tastes good because I don't believe in nasty food, and, have fun with it and have pain freedom. So that's the goal.
Now, you said that's part of a series. So what are the other books in the series, or is this the first of a series?
This is the first installment, and the other ones that will be coming, no dates to be released at this point yet, but it is part of a series, will be mental, so mindset, right, as it relates to pain freedom, and then also the physical activity, the motion and mobility. So we'll be addressing those, but again, 15 minutes is still part of that. So I'm going to be giving you basically 15 minutes of or ideas and ways, even how to break that down. Sometimes it'll be 5-minute chunks, but it's also going to be 15 minutes in a day. But I'm really excited to bring that about too, because I feel like that's one of the biggest excuses I get in my exam room or when I'm rounding in the hospital is I don't have time or something's not convenient. And I'm about to debunk all of those. It's just not true, because I do believe that everybody has 15 minutes.
Right. Now, in that 15 minutes, aside from obviously preparing the right foods, would there be anything else that you'd say are things that people can utilize, right away? People who are listening, the audience that's listening today, hey, you know what, whether you have chronic pain or you're just trying to stay healthy, I'm saying these are some tools in my toolbox that I know can be effective. Diet is one of them. Would you add anything else onto that?
Yeah, so diet is one of them. And in particular, again, what about that diet? So I am still strong, like, of course, promoting for foods that are going to be high in antioxidants, because they zap those free radicals that are very cancer driven. They can create damage in our vessels. They're responsible for a lot of preventable diseases such as hypertension and diabetes and so on and so forth. So yes, diet is one of them. I also do believe in maintaining an alkalinic diet, if you will. So that may be in the form of water, alkaline water. That's kind of been a craze, but not a craze for us in the integrative world, so to speak. It's been known for many, many, many years. I like the idea that people are more knowledgeable about it, but I would definitely say that I tend to stay away from those 10.5 and higher. I don't necessarily know that is, no research really supports that high particularly, but it's going to be a case by case basis. But if you can identify, say, alkaline water, like 8 to 9.5, maybe close to 10, those are really good habits to have where you're drinking alkaline water. And a natural way to do that too is even putting lemon juice in your water. That's very effective. Apple cider vinegar, diluting that a little bit in some water, that actually is very effective as well in terms of pain, okay, in terms of also other inflammatory disease processes as well. So I do like that. Those are just simple things you can do at home that you don't necessarily need to be in the doctor's office for. And another thing I do talk about is movement. Sometimes people, I hurt, how can I move? Or how can I exercise if I hurt? And I always feel like there's always ways to modify until you get to that place. But one thing you do have to focus on is strengthening and flexibility, and you can't X-nay like one of those out of there. Right. I have a lot of patients who are strong, but they're not flexible and they have pain. I have people who are hyper flexible and they don't have strength and they have pain. When you bring that balance together and really remember that they're both important, then you're also going to optimize your pain freedom goals. You're going to optimize your performance even. And I don't mean performance as an athlete per se, but whatever you need to get through the day, whatever you do for a living, is going to be really important that you have both. So I do like things like yoga. Yoga doesn't have to be like a cultural, like, only for these kind of people or whatever. For yoga, for all intents and purposes, if you want to take the word out of it, what it's telling you, what it's doing for you is actually creating balance, actually. So who doesn't need that? It's creating flexibility. It can actually be in promoting strength as well, and relaxation. All of those things are important for pain freedom. So even if you don't want to call it yoga, you need something that's going to implement those characteristics in your regular lifestyle.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. And you know what, I think I do hear that quite a bit. And I know that we briefly kind of talked about my son and him living with chronic pain and having full spinal surgery and everything else. And no matter what, movement is the most, I feel like that's one of the top things. I think that we're in pain. We don't want to move, but if you don't move, you're actually in more pain.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I think it's like this circle. It
is a circle. Mm-hmm. I think that it's a mindset somewhat. That takes me back to mindset a little bit, which is really a strong piece of actually the coaching program. But you have to start kind of wrapping your head around that. I think when you think about, like you just pointed out, I can't move because I hurt, it's somewhat of a mindset thing. It doesn't mean that you won't hurt if you move some, but there's this narrative that we tell ourselves oftentimes, I find, that doesn't necessarily make it true because we tell ourselves it all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's something that we have to work through a lot of times with our clients to kind of, change the narrative, actually, that we're telling ourselves over and over again, that is really impacting their goals to get to that long-term goal. And when you just mentioned about the, like you just mentioned, the whole cycle, right? Of like, I don't want to hurt, so I don't move, and then when I move, I'll feel better. It's trying to just get over that aspect of it. There are, conditions, right, that do matter in terms of how you move. There are certain things that we tell patients, if you have a certain type of back condition, that we don't want you to do hyperextension and things like that. So that varies, of course, person to person, but with some guidance, there's almost never, I honestly cannot think of not one patient in my entire career where I told them, don't move.
Right.
And
because people sometimes when they have the huge surgeries, get a hip replacement, a knee replacement, a new spine, whatever it may be, and you hear, oh, we're going to have you sitting up the first day, or we're going to have you standing up the first day. People think to themselves like, oh my goodness, like, yeah, I'm not standing up, I'm not getting up. And, but if you don't, you actually inflict more pain upon yourself because everything, locks up. And so there is so much of that, that is what we think in our head, like, we're not going to be able to move. I just had this done.
Right. Not to
the mind is powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell people it's not to dismiss your pain. It's not at all, like, that is there, but with some guidance, again, to know how to move, the best way to make sure. And a lot of times, even if it's not strengthening that you're doing, we're just saying to, initiate the mobility. I can't tell you how devastating, even still, I've been doing this many years now, but it breaks my heart when I see people restricted in that way, frozen shoulders, or, they're literally almost permanently, like, in a flex position because they can't, because really the way they treated their body, because they were trying to favor it, they were trying to protect it. Well, then the body got used to that and locked up and stayed in that position. It's really hard to undo those things, even for me.
Right.
Like, so I really try to catch people earlier on in their process and not later, because that definitely gives you the better chance for, full optimizing that function that I'm really, really passionate about. I'm really more passionate about, honestly, function than I am pain. But I know that they go hand in hand. So to me, if I can get you moving, then I know I can get you to that pain freedom. So I really focus on function.
That is right. We need to be moving. That's going to be our campaign for Tuesday today. Everybody needs to get moving, get going for the day. So with that being said, I know that you have your book series that's out, but you also have this MVP kind of group organization. Can you explain a little bit more about that for people? Because obviously I'm in Wisconsin, you're in Atlanta, but you have people from all over the United States that are part of this.
Yeah, so what you're speaking of is our 101 MVP Pain Freedom Coaching Program. A lot of my clients say you shouldn't call it coaching, it's so much more. And I humbly receive that. But really what it is opportunity for people who may not be right here, like you said, in Atlanta or Georgia or close by, but they still are looking for options and solutions, right, to get to their pain freedom. Not everyone, again, it's because I speak on pain freedom, not everyone that comes or the clients are necessarily in pain. They're either trying to prevent pain. Some of my clients are just want to be well and say, okay, what kind of, it's almost like a master class that is 6 months long that allows a person to get to that next level, and it's going to be lifelong because these tools you're going to do, you're going to have are going to serve you for a lifetime. And so sometimes they're in pain, sometimes they're not. Sometimes it's gut-related issues they're trying to address. Sometimes it's weight loss. Sometimes it's, an injury that they just want to make sure doesn't, go bad again. And sometimes it is pain. But the idea is that you'll have pain freedom long term. So it is a one-on-one with me that allows you, we meet on a weekly basis to allow the patient, and then we go through mindset. We go through a kitchen takeover makeover. We go
kitchen takeover makeover. I need that because I can't cook.
We go through mobility and fitness things based on you. So it's very much catered to who's sitting in front of me, almost very similar to this setting. So it's really exciting for them, exciting for me. I love to watch those transformations. So yeah, it is available for people around the country because, everybody doesn't live in Georgia. And I try not to, that was one of my goals when I said, like, okay, outside the exam, how can I help the masses? And this was one of the platforms that allowed us to do that.
That is awesome. Now, aside from that, what are other ways that individuals can connect with you? I know there's the private coaching. You have a book, obviously, people can read. Is there another like private Facebook group, a regular Facebook group? You know, are you on Twitter, on Instagram? Like, where can people find you?
Well, they can find me at Dr. Zarinah across all social media. So it's the same, keep it simple, right?
All
So
right.
that's Zarinah, Dr. Zarinah. So I'm all across the social media: Twitter, Facebook, Google+, Pinterest, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you want to look, find me and follow me there. And we do have a private Facebook group called the MVP Lifestyle with Dr. Zarinah, where we basically try to engage each other. It's really a tribe of, I'm really big on encouragement of those who really want to be there. So it's a closed group. You kind of, is either invite only, or you can, request to be put in there, where I try to engage you in a way that maybe a little bit more intensely than in my normal personal page, obviously, or the
Okay.
So just a way to kind of get a little bit more information and attention if you're looking for something that you can kind of come in on a daily basis or a weekly basis to get some information. We speak about articles in there. I have my Squat Wednesdays in there. So we just do different things to encourage that whole idea that you have to be the most valuable person. It's not actually MVP player. It's the actual valuable person for your health and your wellness. We absolutely have to that. So that's an environment that we try to encourage that in.
That is great. So with that being said, we're going to drop all those links below, correct?
Correct.
We'll drop them all below. And I'm kind of afraid for those who know that Zoom and the Facebook platform is having a little problem this week. So I'm like trying to move this over. I don't know if you can see, I know we have quite a few people that were watching, but I don't know if we have any actual questions that anyone has. But if they drop them below, you'll hop on to that Facebook Live.
Yeah, definitely do that.
Them. Okay, that sounds perfect. Well, thank you so much for spending your half an hour this morning with us here at the On Air Advocate. We'll get everybody the information. Can we see your book? Do you have a book with you?
Look at www.drzarinahbook.com. So that's where you can get your copy. I actually should be mailing out the autographed copies really soon. This is the publisher copy, but we're really excited about that. You all made it bestseller, so it's definitely reaching and I guess making an impact with people. Again, everybody has 15 minutes, 15-minute meals to your pain freedom. And it's www.drzarinahbook.com. So that's www.drzarinahbook.com. You can get this single cell or bulk cell, however you need for your organizations as well. I know that was a request, so we do have that link there as well.
All right, awesome. We'll drop that below too. So on that note, I hope everybody has a fabulous Tuesday. Enjoy the sunshine. And as always, if you want to hop on to see any of our podcasts, YouTube tutorial videos, or any of our other information, you can go to www.onairadvocate.com. As well, please remember that June kicks off our private On Air Advocate Facebook community. So if you are not part of that, make sure you go over and request to be part of that, because there's going to be a whole lot of us in there in every single category. All right, so you have a fabulous day. Thanks so much, Dr. Z, for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.